This is the Montana Outdoor Podcast, brought to you in part by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to rmtte.com for more information. And by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. Now, get ready for more fascinating topics and the most interesting people you will ever find in Montana's great outdoors. We offer new podcasts most every Saturday. You can get a link to these podcasts by going to our website, montanooutdoor.com, or by going to our Facebook page, or just send an email to Downrigger at montanooutdoor.com and say send a link to my email. It's that simple. Now let's head out with your host, Downrigger Dale, and see what's going on in Montana's great outdoors.
Thank you very much, Manny, and welcome into the Montana Outdoor Podcast studio. So glad you chose us to explore part of Montana's great outdoors today. I want to give a special welcome to our men and women of the United States Armed Forces that are deployed all across the world listening to this podcast. We are indeed honored to have so many of you around the world listening to us. It's just great to have you here, and I hope this brings a little bit of home back to you. There are so many of you that are from Montana and are deployed around the world, so just great to have you. Thank you also to our wonderful veterans for your service as well to our great country. Want to ask a quick favor of all of you that are listening right now. And that is, if you get a chance, please share this podcast to your social media, share it with your family and friends. It helps us out a great deal. And so when you get a chance to do that for us. Also, we are now a video podcast. You know, for the last few years, we have been just audio only. But we got drugged kicking and screaming into the future. And we are now on YouTube. And I'll have a link to that in the podcast description if you'd like to watch, because we do put some pretty cool pictures and things in there. And you get to look at my handsome mug, which, I do have a face for radio. So anyway, check that out. Now I want to bring in our guest here. Today, and I'm going to butcher your last name, so I'm just going to ask you to pronounce it for me. Megan, how do you say your last name, just so I don't miss it?
Buecking.
Say it again?
Buecking, like it's pen.
Buecking. Okay. See, I would have messed it up. Okay.
I usually do too.
But today we have Megan Buecking, and she is the executive director of the Montana State Parks Foundation. And I love the way the Montana State Parks Foundation's website introduces us to Megan. It really shows how passionate she is about the great state of Montana. She came, well, here, let me just read it to you. That's the best way. It says this: Megan's passion for outdoor recreation, conservation, and advocacy began during her upbringing between the Adirondack State Park and the St. Lawrence River. That's in upstate New York. With dreams of skiing, hiking, and rafting on the Gallatin, Megan and her now husband, Alex, moved to Montana on New Year's Day in 2008 with little more than $1,000 and a red Jeep and a golden retriever. I just love that. It really shows what kind of person Megan is and the passion and all that. So it's been a long ride in your red Jeep with your doggy and your husband. But we're glad you're here, Megan. And what brought you from New York? It's had to be the, as I love to call it, the mystical, magical place called Montana. It seems like the further away someone is from the state, the more mystical and magical it becomes. I think that's why we have so many people we're now in, over 60 countries in about 1,900 different cities around the world that listen. So,
wow.
people out there in the world are fascinated with us. In fact, we have a lot of outfitters and guides in Africa that listen to the podcast and are just fascinated by the animals we hunt.
Oh,
And,
interesting.
and I look at it,
There's so much that draws people to Montana.
yeah, when I'm talking to them on email and that, I always say, well, you think our animals are interesting. I think the stuff you guys have there is just, people that go on these photography safaris and the things
Mhm.
that they go see, it just blows me away. But I guess, when it's something different. Anyway, so you came from back east, you got here. So tell us about you, and
Okay.
then we'll get into the Montana State Parks Foundation.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I grew up on the Canadian border in upstate New York. A lot of times when people hear New York, I have to clarify upstate New York, and then I
Yeah.
have to clarify again the Canadian border because it's very different than what someone might assume when you say New York. It's very rural, rustic, and really nice in upstate New York.
Yeah, it's not
So
the
yeah,
big city.
I spent a lot of time in the Adirondack Park, but I spent a lot more time actually on the St. Lawrence River, which is close to where I grew up, especially at Wellesley Island State Park. I always think about that now that I have this really strong state park tie, and I spent so much time as a little kid on Wellesley Island just running around the trails with my parents. I have a lot of fond memories, and I think that's really where it started for me, like just that very accessible front country recreation was the kind of stuff that I did as a kid. We weren't doing like major backpacking trips or anything like that. We were going to state parks, local campgrounds, going swimming in the rivers, watching black bears eat our food off the picnic table and things like that. So yeah, that was just a major part of my life growing up. I guess I might have taken it for granted, to be honest. I never really thought about it as a special thing, but growing up in upstate New York and then being able to move out here to Montana, I'm really blessed. I'm really, really glad with the amount of nature that's in my life. It's been an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I moved here, that is a very accurate and very true story. My boyfriend and I, Alex, my husband now, it all worked out,
Mhm.
thankfully.
Yeah.
We packed up and moved right out of college. We didn't have jobs. We didn't have a place to live. We lived in a Super 8 in Bozeman. And it was 2008. We were 21. We didn't have much to lose, and we really wanted to go skiing.
Yeah.
So we really moved here to be ski bums, just like a lot of people have, but I think we played our cards really well. We got jobs. I spent about 10 years as a teacher. And in that time, I did a lot of volunteer work with outdoor recreation groups. I did 3 years as a mentor at BYEP, which is the Big Sky Youth Empowerment group. And they bring at-risk kids out mostly skiing, but out into the woods and just doing a lot of cool recreation stuff as kind of a way to just enhance their lives and give them confidence. And that was a super impactful experience for me as a younger mentor. It was huge. It was
Yeah.
kind of directed my whole life, to be honest. I also worked at a lot of summer camps as a teacher. I worked in a fishing shop. And then I also worked as a backpacking guide, which was another hugely impactful experience. 45 days of backpacking will change a person, and
Yeah.
I think for the better. Yeah, so, I kinda made career transition somewhere in there and moved to the nonprofit realm. My first role in nonprofits was managing educational programming and also public art installations, which is where I really got a feel for project management and working with, landowners and the local government or municipalities, whatever.
Mhm.
And then from there, I kinda landed my dream job at Montana State Parks Foundation, and I've been here this is gonna be the beginning of my 3rd year, and it's been a wild ride. I drank out of the fire hose for a long time, and it's been really exciting. It's a really cool place to be working.
Yeah. Well, I have a love affair with Montana State Parks. I think we are so fortunate that we have 56 state parks to go
Mhm.
to. Um, but the State Parks Foundation, the organization that you're with, that is different than the Montana State Parks, correct? So tell us about the foundation and how it differs, but how you guys all work together.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a question I get a lot because it's a little confusing. We're the Montana State Parks Foundation. So that means we're the official nonprofit partner of the Montana State Park. So we're not part of the state government. We're completely separate. We're an independent 501c3. And we're really a very small grassroots organization. We're relatively new. We were founded in 2015 with the goal of um, raising private support for projects at state parks that were outside of state park budgets. So being that entity that could show up and help find funding or advocate for the state parks in ways that the state itself could not.
Mhm.
So the way that we work is we collaborate really, really closely with the FWP, specifically the people working in the Parks Administration and also the park staffs themselves. So what we do is basically we have a lot of conversations, ongoing emails about different projects that we could prioritize and work on together. And from there, we kind of come up with project plans. And on our end, we seek out funding or whatever kind of support is needed and make those projects happen.
Well, that's great. One of the things that has always amazed me about Montana state parks is, as I was saying, just how many of them there is.
Mhm.
56 of them. So, so many of them. What's incredible is that they're all incredibly affordable. I mean,
Mhm.
you these are very nice parks. They're more than just, a place to pitch a tent. I mean, some of them have full services, all that, even like guided tours, guest speakers. I mean, the list goes on and on. So these are really well done parks.
Mhm.
Now, all of it, like I said, is very reasonably priced, and in some cases even free. So, how
Mhm.
do they afford to do all that? That's what amazes me. I assume that's where the Montana State Parks Foundation comes in. Am I?
Yeah, I can kind of break it all down for you. We serve a very kind of specific role. But I think to explain that, I should probably talk about how the state parks themselves are funded.
Yeah.
So there's a couple different funding sources for the state parks themselves. So the first one that I really think people should be aware of, and I'm sure that they are, is the $9 vehicle registration fee. So when you go to register your vehicle, there's that like optional checkbox to,
Hmm.
uh, you know, contribute $9 to the state parks. And that's actually a very significant funding source and a relatively new funding source for the state parks. Um, they also generate their own revenue. So, like you were just describing, things like camping fees and special permits or rentals, things like that, program fees like the cave tours at the caverns, all of those things generate revenue for the parks. And that's another major source of revenue for them. There's also some dedicated revenue sources that are a little bit different. And they are things like the coal severance tax revenue and the marijuana tax revenue. Marijuana tax revenue was a really big issue in the current or the just wrapped up
Hmm.
legislative session. That funding was actually at risk of being removed from state parks and
Really?
other outdoor conservation efforts. And us, along with a lot of other groups, fought pretty hard in the legislature to keep that funding, and we won. So we're really happy to report that all of the advocacy that we did in the legislature helped keep some of that funding with the parks, which is one of the major things that we do is advocating for park funding. And
Why did they
then,
want to take
okay,
that away?
well, I think there's a lot of different reasons that it could have been removed. What was being proposed was reallocating that funding to law enforcement services. I don't really have the entire background. It's another obviously very critical and important service, but there's a lot of other funding sources available for that.
Hmm.
And so we fought really hard to keep it with the state parks because while we recognize the importance of law enforcement,
Sure.
obviously is
Yeah.
critical. That money was intended for the parks, and we really wanted it to stay there because the parks are, to be honest, have very minimal operating budgets for the parks themselves throughout the year. And I can actually give you an example of that, and kind of that'll segue into the work we do. So
Sure.
here's a small example. So there is a state park up on Whitefish Lake called Les Mason State Park. And a couple years ago, there was this really popular swim dock, like the kind that you swim out to, like kids swim out to, and they sit on it and they jump
Yeah.
off. Cool really love this dock. Like, I get it. Those docks are super fun. But the dock itself had degraded to the point that it wasn't safe. There was like holes in it and it had to be removed. So they removed the dock a couple years ago, and then everyone was really sad, understandably. The dock was
Mhm.
gone. The actual cost of replacing the dock exceeded the entire park's operating budget. And so
Wow.
it was just, yeah, it was just not feasible for them to replace the dock on a quick timeline. It's something that they, I'm sure over years could have gotten the funds together to do. But, right in the moment, the next year, everyone was super sad not having that dock. And we actually had a volunteer step up and say, "Hey, I really want to see this dock come back. Is there a way that I can volunteer with you and help fundraise? Like, is there something we could do?" And from there, we started talking with the park staff and we brought the concept to the park administration and got the thumbs up to go ahead with it. We did a crowdsourcing style fundraiser and we raised enough money to replace that dock in about a month. So the dock is
Great.
back. We're celebrating it this year. And that's just a good example of the kind of work that we could do on like the smaller scale type of project that we can do. But that idea, that concept that of stepping in when the state, for whatever reason, can't fund a certain project. So that applies all the way up to a recent $500,000 project that we did at Fort Owen. Same concept. The smallest state park in Montana, a really great historical site, but it was pretty run down. There was really bad access. The road to the park was pretty poorly accessible. There was one parking spot, so it's not like you could bring school tours there or
Right.
anything. And we were able to secure funding to help build a parking lot, help do a major, major preservation project with help from the Friends of Fort Owen, which is a friends group. And we also did a major interpretive project there. And we are telling the true story of Fort Owen. And all of that wouldn't have been possible with the base budget for Fort Owen. We really had to bring in that outside funding to make that kind of next level park
Mhm.
experience happen. So
Well,
that's basically what we do.
I love this because this is the kind of thing that people need to hear about because
Mhm.
so often people think, oh, well, it's just all, funded by our tax dollars. So, they just need to deal with it and all that. They don't realize that that funding isn't there. And instead of people just complaining about it, folks like you say, no, we're going to find a way. And you do. And that's what's great about it. And the people that benefit are those that then want to come to our state parks. Like the example about that dock.
Mhm.
Kids are jumping and playing and swimming and doing all that instead of sitting at home and watching a video game. So it's thanks to organizations like this that say, "No, we'll figure it out. We'll get it done," and they do, and that's what's so important. And I just these are the kind of things that we need to know more about, and I hope our listeners will really take some time as you're listening to this to research this organization. Up on your screen, you're going to see a link to that. Of course, in the podcast description, there'll be a link to it as well. You can click on that and go to the Montana State Parks Foundation website and look at it. So as we go along, get to know this organization. So let's get into some of your current projects. You've already talked about a couple of them. Now, I don't know if we're going to be able to get to all of them because you guys got a lot going on, which is great.
Mhm.
Megan, you have been very busy, but
I have. You're right.
I'm sure we're going to be bugging you to come back again and all that. So I'm just going to turn you loose. Why don't you go through some of these current projects that are going on?
Okay. It's a dangerous thing to turn me loose, but I'll go for it. So I actually just want to talk about two of our major projects that we have
Okay.
going on that are multifaceted. So the first one is our newest state park, Judith Landing State Park. And I will show some beautiful pictures of this new site to your listeners because it's such an incredible place. I'm so excited about this new park. Let me tell you a little bit about it. So over the past couple of years, we have been having some conversations with the state and American Prairie about donating this parcel of land. It's been a pretty long, lengthy process getting it all set up. And back in December, we were able to partner with American Prairie to donate 106 acres to create a new state park. So the 106 acres is now state park land. It was accepted by the state park Parks and Recreation Board back in December, and it's open to the public, but it's not quite developed yet. They've started to do a little bit of the development work, and we were able to appeal to the Montana legislature to request development funding for the new park, and it was approved. We're hoping it goes through the governor's office soon, so we know 100% that that funding will be there. But something that we're doing from the foundation's end is looking at what are those potential pieces of development of the new park that could kind of elevate it to that next level of visitor experience. And one of the most interesting things about that park is actually the historical context. As a river person, I initially was like, oh my goodness, Missouri breaks, like get me on that river. It's the headwaters or the confluence of the Judith and the Missouri. So it's a super
Yeah.
amazing river access site. That's going to be a major draw for people. And initially, that's what I was the most excited about. But once I started reading about the history of the site, I was like, whoa, this is an important site that a lot of people don't know much about. And that's one of the kind of the main reason that we all agreed that it should be a state park, because the state can do such a lovely job of managing that resource and conducting proper research and preservation efforts. So it was really a dream come true to have this entered into the state park system. So what we're working on now is working with some new partners. We're seeking out new partners to help fund historic preservation and interpretation efforts. So I'll tell you a little bit about the history because it's super cool.
Mhm.
And I will
Well,
also share some pictures to go along with it.
you mentioned the governor, and both the governor and the first lady of our state listen to this podcast. So you're talking to them right now. So,
Oh yeah.
uh,
Good day, Governor Gianforte.
so
He's been a wonderful supporter of the work we've done, particularly the accessibility work we've done. He's come out and tested out some of the equipment that we've donated, and I've had a great time working with Governor Gianforte
Mhm.
on the Missouri Headwaters project as well.
Yeah, he's been a frequent guest here on the podcast, and both he and his wife are very much outdoor folks, as we say. So
Yes, they
so
are. Yes.
listen up, Gov, because Megan's got some cool stuff for you to hear about, and
Yeah.
hopefully,
So yeah, let me tell you about the history here. I'll kind of just cover the bullet points because there's so much. Every time I talk to the archaeologist from the FWP, it's like we could talk for hours about it because it's so interesting. So I'll start with the beginning. So it's a really critical site of Indigenous history. There were important treaties there, and just a lot of Indigenous history that needs to be researched and discovered and have the story told. It was also Montana's first military outpost. Camp Cook and Camp Claggett were located there.
hmm,
It also has the steamship and ferry history, which I don't actually know that much about, but it's a really striking image to see a steamship ferry in the middle of the Missouri River. It's pretty cool.
yeah,
The historic PN Ranch was one of Montana's first large cattle operations. And actually on the site, there's still the PN Mansion, which is just a beautiful historic building that we're really hoping to preserve and make more accessible to visitors. Currently, it's all boarded up. It's a beautiful structure still, but it's not quite ready for people to enter. So we're really hoping our efforts will help make it more
mhm.
accessible.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then the other thing that's just a cherry on top is it's also the site of the first dinosaur fossil discovery in
oh,
Montana.
really?
Whatever.
Okay.
It's got everything.
Wow.
I
Wow.
know.
Yeah, the steamships that came up before the dams and all that stuff.
Right.
Fort Benton, Montana, was the last stop that as far as you
Mm.
could go north. So you could actually start from New Orleans and go all the way up to Fort Benton, Montana. So Mississippi
Wow.
up to the Missouri and on in, and that was a popular way to travel to get up to Montana, and that was even way before we were a state. So anyway, a little
I
history there.
wonder how long that would take.
Oh boy,
Like,
long, long time.
yeah, I have no concept of how long that would take.
Yeah. Well, but
Years?
back in those days, that was pretty fast, because your
Mhm.
alternative was riding a horse or walking. And so it got you around pretty quick. But Anyway, this new state park, this is exciting because state parks serve a lot of different purposes. For a lot of our listeners who love to hunt and fish, a lot of them stay at state parks. And I mean, a lot of our listeners use state parks because they are
Mhm,
usually the closest to where you like to hunt and fish and all that.
mhm,
They're very affordable and they're great to work with. So
mhm.
the more of these that we bring on board, but then as time has gone on, we found that these state parks have this great history. So it's so neat to hear that we've got a new one with this incredible history. So would this be number 56 or would this be 57 now?
I think this one's 56. I get a little bit confused about that. I'm pretty sure that I
This
go
should
back and
be
forth between 56, 57. I
I
think
bet
it's
you this is
56 though. This
56
one,
because we were at
56.
55 before. So this
Mhm.
is fantastic. So um, you guys, what are your plans as far as, I mean, how soon do you think you'll be able to start getting some of these type of, I imagine this is going to take a lot of construction and that to start putting up some of this stuff.
The plans for the park. So this is, I guess, an important thing to keep in mind with how the foundation and the state parks actually work together. The state park actual projects, development projects, anything like that, are really truly just planned by the state park staff because that is their
Mhm.
expertise. Our expertise is coming in to support those efforts. So they're really in charge of all the planning. And from my personal experience, it's been really cool to see how much consideration they give public input. If you have an opportunity to make a public comment on any proposal that comes up from the FWP that affects you or you care about, I really strongly recommend people make comments. I also recommend that people go to public scoping events that are hosted because they genuinely really take your comments into major consideration. So anyway, so they're in charge of planning the project, and I'm really excited for what they have planned. It's going to be a rustic heritage site, so that means that it stays intact as it is. It's not gonna have a bunch of major development, and the purpose of that is maintaining the historical context. It also, it's just really lovely outdoor space, so we don't wanna mess it up with a bunch of parking lots and things like that. There is gonna be camping there, like tent camping, I do believe, several camp locations, and, other plans include the stabilization of the historic buildings, which is gonna be a pretty major effort. Some of them are
Yeah.
pretty, degraded, and they'll need a lot of work to be stabilized just to be safe for people to kinda interact with them. Um, I'm trying to think, some new trail systems in there, and yeah, it's gonna be a really, really lovely park. Very much out in the just smack middle of Montana, and if people have the opportunity to check it out, it's gonna be a beautiful park.
Okay. We're going to take just a quick break for a second, and I want to have an opportunity to talk a bit about one of our great sponsors that allow us to do podcasts like this, and that is Superior Hardwoods of Montana. Uh, I want you guys to really listen up on this one because these folks talk about history and preserving things and that. They do this really cool thing with taking old buildings that would be torn down and burned in a lot of cases and redoing that wood and allowing you to put some history into your home and keep all that going. So we'll talk about that. You know, they say they don't make them like they used to, but at Superior Hardwoods of Montana, that's kind of the whole point. This isn't just a lumber yard. We're talking about 11 acres of reclaimed wood. Wall paneling, flooring, trim, beams, slabs, you name it. Every single piece has a story behind it. Old barns, historic homesteads, long forgotten factories. This wood has been places, and now it can be part of your story too. Maybe you're building a home, remodeling a room, or just putting together that dream project you've had on the back burner. Superior Hardwoods of Montana can help bring it to life. They can even custom mill it to fit your exact vision because real craftsmanship never goes out of style. And here's the thing, you're not just getting character and beauty when you choose reclaimed wood, you're reclaiming American history. You're giving something old a brand new chapter with values that never go out of style. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Whether you're a contractor, a weekend DIYer, or someone who just loves a one-of-a-kind piece of wood, Superior Hardwoods is open to the public and ready to help. Exotic woods, live edge slabs, pre-finished and unfinished flooring, it's all in stock and ready to go. Need help picking out the right material? Just ask. Their team has been doing it since 1977, and they know how to guide you through the woods, literally and figuratively. Swing by their beautiful showroom at 5120 Highway 93 South in Missoula, or check them out online at superior-hardwoods.com. I promise you, you'll leave inspired. That's Superior Hardwoods of Montana. Local, knowledgeable, family run, and ready to help you build something that lasts. Let them help guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. Superior Hardwoods of Montana. Go see him. Back here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast, and Megan Buecking is my guest. We're talking about our great state parks, and you were just talking about the newest state park. Give us that name again so I get it right.
Judith Landing State Park.
Judith Landing State Park. So I hope you've got one picture in mind. Tell us about what we're going to look at here.
Yeah, so the PN Ranch Mansion, I think, just tells the whole story. And I actually made my first visit there 2 weeks ago now. I'm actually going back tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
I visited there for the first time 2 weeks ago, and there's I've been spending basically 2 years just looking at photos of this location and learning about it. And the focal point of the park is the PN mansion, which mansion, take that with a grain of salt, but it's a
Yeah.
beautiful old house.
Mhm.
And it's surrounded by, like a beautiful cottonwood grove. And as you come down to the park from the hill above, you can actually see it from quite a ways off. And when I saw it, I was just like, there it is. There, I can see the building in real life. So I'll show you some pictures of the PN mansion that are current, and I'll
Mhm.
also show you some historical photos so you can see it in that it's like Pioneer Day glamour.
Yeah, wow, those are cool looking pictures. I like that. So this is going to give you a taste. Now, who would have originally built this place that we're looking at here?
So PN stands for Power and Norris, who were the ranchers that started the PN Ranch. So they built that mansion as their home. And I believe there's a lot of history behind it that our archaeologist friends at the FWP can tell us more about once we are able to conduct more thorough research. But yeah,
Mhm.
Power and Norris were the ranchers that had that property way back. And oh gosh, I actually need to look up the dates of the ranch. There's so many different dates of all the events that have happened there. I don't recall exactly when the ranch was built.
Well, Montana is got such an incredible history. I mean, ranching and farming were kind of what put our state on the map in a lot of ways. And so that's neat. So will there be a time, do you think, that this home will be something that people can tour through and that sort of thing?
I think that is an ultimate goal, and I think something like that really depends on it, funding and being able to make that happen. Yeah. So I know that currently they're already working on developing the park itself. They've already put up some new fencing and made a small parking area. People can actually currently go there, but other than the new parking area, it's really undeveloped, and the development's currently happening. All of that's just general state park development should start happening. It's beginning now and it will keep going. But we're really hoping to secure some funding by 2027 to start the more advanced historical preservation work.
So when you go to secure funding, where do you get that from? Is it just like a fundraising drive where people like our listeners that are listening and watching now can donate to, or do you get grants? How does all that work?
It's a little bit of everything. So we are definitely seeking grant funding for this type of project. But we're also working with individual donors who might want to support. And anyone can make a donation. And if someone's interested in talking to me more about what that looks like, I'm really happy to speak one-on-one with anyone interested. But yeah, it's going to be for an effort like that. It's going to be focused on a lot of grants and making partnerships with major donors, maybe looping in some foundations for some help. And yeah, just finding which partners are passionate about Montana history and making that park happen.
Hmm. Okay. Well, our friends at Superior Hardwoods of Montana, they work with a lot of old wood and reconditioning stuff. You never know; they might even want to jump in there because
Never know.
that is just a great. That's exciting. So we're going to see some
It
history.
really is.
We're going to see some history come to life. As far as when people would be able to start camping and that there is, when do you suppose that'll happen?
Probably, I can't completely answer that. My guess would be kind of tentatively plan on 2027, it being open and available. The park, you can currently go there. There's just no camping
Right.
currently.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Cool. All right. Anything more on that one, or do you want to move to your next exciting?
I'll go to my next one if you're
All right.
ready.
Let's go.
Okay. Cool. So the other big project that we're currently focusing on, that I am also very excited about, I'm just very excited about many things, is our park accessibility project. And the goal of the park accessibility project is to make the parks more accessible for people with disabilities. And a major tenet of that is the concept of nothing about us without us. So when I came on, we had already done some accessibility work, which was awesome. It really set us on a path to success in initiating this project, but something that was missing was inclusion of the disability community.
Mhm.
And so I was able to reach out and pull together a small committee, our park accessibility committee. And people on this committee are members of the disability community. And they're also people who work professionally in that field in a kind of a variety of different ways, whether they work at like assisted living facilities or at a VA, et cetera. And so with their help and with my board and with actually quite a few other groups, a lot of outdoor recreation groups are really digging in deep to accessibility right now, which is amazing, obviously for making outdoor spaces more accessible, but also for finding resources and information. I've had a really great time talking to different organizations just about what they're doing in the accessibility realm. And I've been learning a lot. So all of that led to the park accessibility project, and we have 3 current projects. I'll kinda go through them quickly.
Yeah.
The first is at Yellow Bay on Flathead Lake, so that's a Flathead Lake State Park unit, and the FWP is developing an accessible campground, and we were able to partner with a private donor to help fund some of that infrastructure. We're really excited about that campground. I wanna put a pin in that for everyone who's interested in accessible camping and boating and, like, kayaking. Check
Mhm.
that out, keep that on your list. And then the next project that we're doing this summer is it's at Wayfarer State Park, which is on Flathead Lake also, near Big Fork, and we're actually piloting something that I'm super excited about called an inclusive interdisciplinary walk move audit. Lots of words to say we're gonna judge the trail system here by bringing, members of the disability community and professionals in that world, basically for a move across the trail to assess what are the accessibility barriers here? Like, what are the problems that keep people from being able to get on this trail? A lot of the times they're really simple solutions like moving some rocks
Yeah.
or, making a wider turn, things like that. But a lot of those things are really easy to overlook unless you're in a wheelchair or you are, dealing with some other limitation. So what we'll do is go to the park, we'll lead that audit, and then we'll come back with findings and recommendations for some improvement projects. And from there, we will work with the park staff and park administration to decide on exactly the projects and the timeline. And then the foundation will come in and fund those projects and make them happen. That's the most important part. The audit's the first step. Making the project happen is the end goal. And we're excited about this specifically because it's a pilot program. So this is our first time leading one of these. Our goal is to do it this year, tweak it, make it perfect if we can, and then replicate it at all of the state parks across the state is the long-term goal.
Well,
Um,
this really hits home to me because Montana, and there's a reason why, and a lot of our hunters and fishermen out there are very involved in helping disabled veterans be able to hunt and fish and do a lot of these things that we take for granted that, oh, we'll go hiking here or do this there. And Montana has a huge number of veterans. We're right up there with some of the the top states in the country with a huge percentage of our population that are veterans. And of course, with that, a huge percentage are unfortunately disabled. Uh,
Mhm.
my daughter is a disabled veteran. And so that's a that's something that I think our whole audience is very passionate about because we want everybody to come fishing and camping
Mhm.
and hiking and all those great things. And what we found is that it's a great way to heal, especially
Mhm.
those with traumatic stress disorder and so many other things that we suffer from. And so this really hits home. So these are things that need to happen. I'm so
Mhm.
excited about this. Now, will that include some of these new track chairs that some of our parks have now?
Yeah. Yeah, so those track chairs, we were actually able to donate those. Those were kind of our first, steps into
Those things are
accessibility
awesome.
programming. They're super awesome, they're really fun. They're very burly, they're, like, super cool. So yeah, I'll actually tell you about the next project with accessibility, which includes a track chair. So we are gonna be, fundraising. This is a public fundraising effort, and it's just kicking off now, for Spring Meadow Lake State Park in Helena. So that's the really nice park that's pretty much right in town. It's really close to the Archie Bray Center, and it's got a beautiful lake and really nice beach for kids. It's probably my son's favorite park because he's a beach kid. And, it connects into the 10 Mile Creek Trail system. It also connects to the Montana Wild Center, and it also connects to the Fort Harrison VA Medical Center. All of
Nice.
that goes to say that there's a really important group of people that visit that park, which is, the residents of Helena, veterans, kids on school trips. Things like that, families. So our fundraising efforts are to install a new adaptive dock and kayak launch. And we are also fundraising to purchase and donate a few different pieces of adaptive recreation equipment. And talking about the adaptive recreation equipment is actually kind of where we got started with the accessibility committee. I kind of just, was thinking about different kinds of equipment and the fact that I don't know that much about them. And I was like, I need people that use this equipment to tell me about it because I
Right.
need to know the facts of how
Mhm.
this equipment works. And so that's how I got started with the accessibility committee, and it snowballed from there to thinking more big picture. But with the accessibility committee, we were able actually to kind of look through and do research on quite a few different pieces of equipment and to pinpoint pieces of equipment that were actually really appropriate for that park. Some parks you really don't need a full big burly action track chair that's designed more for trails or a stinger bike, which is an adaptive bike. You might need something a little bit less burly. I can't think of a different word than burly today.
Okay.
So what we landed on was a Huckleberry Hiker, which is a cool adaptive system where a hiker attaches this kind of tether to themselves and is actually able to pull someone with like a wheel sit chair kind of situation. It's really
Oh,
cool, and I'll
okay.
share some photos with you.
Yeah.
So you need a visual on that one. And then we're also gonna be purchasing, if we could fundraise enough, a Zoom mobility chair, which is an all-terrain chair, and it's really nice. I think it will be a really nice feature for people to go ice fishing with, actually. And then the final piece that we're hoping to fundraise for is a, what's it called? Hippocamp beach chair. So it's a really specialized beach wheelchair. Anyone who uses a wheelchair or that has ever tried to take something with wheels on sand knows that it is
Very
very
difficult.
impossible.
Yeah.
Yes, very difficult. And so this Hippocamp beach wheelchair has special wheels that help just go on the sand really easily. All of those pieces of equipment will be available for complimentary reservation and for use at the park itself, as well as the Fort Harrison VA Medical Center. So if someone wanted to hit the trail system up, they could use that equipment. They could borrow it and use it on the trail. And it will also be available for use at the Montana Wild Center.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's our other project for accessibility. We're currently looking for business partners to help sponsor this initiative. and we're hosting a fun fundraising celebration way out in September for
Okay.
this.
What
Yep.
kind of businesses would be partnered with you? Just because we get a lot of them that listen and all that, and I know I can hear the wheels turning with some of our listeners. We have the greatest group of listeners that you'll ever know. They are the most generous and amazing people. So. I think you'll get a lot of help with this.
Cool.
If you want it, what kind of businesses are you looking for, and what would you expect them to do to help you?
Any business. We're really open to any partnership. Any group of people that wants to support accessibility to state parks would be welcome to work with us. I have a couple business sponsored donation levels that I'd be happy to
Okay.
share with individuals who might be interested. But for a business sponsor to initially get involved, our lowest level is around 500 and our highest level is around 10,000.
Okay.
We're working on securing a lead gift with a local donor to help kick it off. And we're just super excited. So if anyone's interested, I really encourage them to just reach out. We are a small enough and flexible enough organization to make anything work. Another cool thing, if businesses were interested in supporting the project, but in a different way, is businesses could bring their employees to serve as volunteers for park events.
Okay.
Maybe whether that's, helping with installing some of that equipment or helping with our event in September, things like that.
Well, speaking of sponsors, I wanted to do one last little break here with our sponsor, Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer, who have been just such a wonderful supporter of this podcast. And they have some, well, a lot of you listening probably don't realize just how much in common you have with Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. Truth is, the Montana Outdoor Podcast wouldn't exist without their incredible support. And if you've been enjoying these episodes each week, maybe it's time to support the folks who help make it happen. So here's the question. Do you need a trailer for work, for hauling gear to your next adventure? Or maybe a new truck bed to help keep your life organized, whether it's for work or play? Well then, go see the folks who already get what you're about. You see, if you listen to this show, you've already got something in common with Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. Like you, they love the outdoors. They work hard, and they're dang good at what they do. Their job? Helping people like you get your work done faster so you can get back out in Montana's great outdoors. Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer carries a full lineup of Diamond Sea trailers, gooseneck, equipment, dub trailers, well, you name it. Whether you're hauling a few supplies or towing the big stuff, Diamond Sea trailers are built to handle it all with reliability and ease. They also carry CM truck beds, the strongest, most durable truck beds around. Plus, they service everything they sell. Need your trailer rewired so the lights work the way they're supposed to? They'll take care of that too. Got a new truck? They'll get you set up with the accessories you need, installed and ready to roll. And don't wait until the last minute to schedule your trailer service. Do that ahead of time so your gear's ready to go when you are. They also stock a huge selection of parts for Boss snowplows, CM truck beds, and Diamond Sea trailers. And if it's not in stock, they'll find it. Need financing? Well, they've got you covered there, too. Need a gooseneck or fifth wheel hitch for that rodeo trip or family outing to the great outdoors? Yep, they install those too. Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. They're in Missoula at 5680 Expressway. You can call them at 406-549-4243 or check them out online at rmtte.com. That's Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer, rmtte.com. Now let's get back to what Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer helped create, the podcast. Back here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast, Megan Buecking is my guest. We're talking about all these incredible things that the Montana State Parks Foundation is doing for our state parks. This whole topic we got on about accessibility just really does my heart wonders. I love to see these kind of things because we never want to leave a soldier behind. out there on the battlefield, and we for sure do not ever want to leave anyone behind when they want to go out and see our great outdoors. That's just key. We got to do this. So this is something I really hope our listeners will jump on board with and help, especially so many of them are business owners. So if you can, I know you get hit up a lot, but this would be a good one because we don't want anyone on the sidelines when it comes to our state parks. Um,
Mhm.
what anything else you want us to know about this that as far as our listeners getting involved or things we ought to know about? How many parks will this kind of accessibility initiative hit?
Yeah, that's a great question. So our end goal is literally to do some level of this at each state park, and that is a very long-term goal. That's kind of
Yeah.
like the grand picture. So currently, what the state is actually working on, this is really cool. The FWP has 2 college interns this summer, and their job is to go to the 11 kind of premier, the largest state parks to conduct an accessibility inventory. So those are kind of our first target parks are those 11 state parks that are the larger ones. And the real reason for that is because those are already the most visited and the most accessible in a certain sense, as in they're closer to towns, they're a little bit larger, they have the established infrastructure like parking lots, etc. Just to have that initial establishment that's a little bit easier to access. So these interns are going to those parks and they're conducting these inventories. They're going to have a basically come up with a really detailed list of all of the accessibility features at those parks. And that will really help us in understanding what's already there so that we can come in and fill in the blanks. And all of that also will be supported by a pretty major communication effort to get this information to people because if people don't have the information about what's at each park, they don't know if it's gonna work out for them to go there. The worst thing in the world is to drive all the way to a park or outdoor recreation area after doing a lot of planning and to get there and realize that, it's not accessible for a member of your group. It's the worst,
Yeah.
and it happens, unfortunately. It's just really hard to convey all of that information, and so that's something that we're partnering with the state on is getting that information out to people as well. Um but yeah, so our first parks will be those 11 main state parks, not main state parks, but the larger ones, and then we'll just continue to go from there. And we're also, like I said, we're a really flexible organization. So whenever there's opportunities that jibes with the priorities of the state and that we can make happen, we're pretty open to,
Mhm.
you know, going for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll never forget one of the disabled veterans that I did some work with, and I was said, well, one of these days you're going to have to come fishing with us, and he said, well, that's not really something crippled folks can do. And I
Right.
said, oh, now you're challenging me. Yes, you can. And lo and behold, we had him out fishing in no time. And so this is important. And what it does, even for folks that, that are able to go anywhere, uh,
Mhm.
it's a really great thing to know that, hey, we did something here. We were able to get someone to come along with us. Everyone should be able to go fishing. Everyone should be able to
Mhm.
go camping and discover these incredible sights and sounds and things that we have at our state
Sure.
parks. So this is just
Yeah.
great. I'm so happy
Thank you.
that
And
you guys are
Dale, I'd say like the flip side of us of all people really wanting to make these spaces accessible and to get more people there, the thing that I think people sometimes forget is that in our lives as human beings, we are each person is going to come up against some form of a disability in their life
without a doubt.
or something that limits them from accessing public spaces. So, whether it be related to old age or an injury, if you've ever been on crutches, it's very difficult to get around on crutches and open doors and do things like that. Or if you've had a baby and you're walking around with a stroller all the time, people maybe don't realize how much accessibility features benefit all of us,
Absolutely.
whether or not we are currently disabled. So
Mhm.
it's just an important feature for the longevity of people's like careers in the outdoors. As we're super young, state parks are a great place to recreate because they're so accessible in front country. And then I really think as we age, they serve the same purpose.
Yeah, well, without a doubt, and often that's the time when we're getting older when we have the time to do this.
Right.
But
Right.
then we may not have the ability at that point. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
this is where some really cool things can happen, so that you worked your whole life, you did all this stuff, and now you have the time. Well, now you can't get around the park to see it. So
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
what it's about.
And the thing about Montana state parks is they're pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
We're not all just like picnic parks. So we have some pretty incredible spaces to recreate outdoors here.
Without a doubt, when people come to this state and tour our state parks, I've talked to so many people that either work at the parks or work in the FWP and that say we get so many great comments because people go, I had no idea. I mean, it's just our state parks are amazing, and we
Mhm.
just this is some great stuff. Before we go, are there any things, glimpses of the future that are out there, or ways that you guys are got planned? I suppose you've got all kinds of things, but anything
We
you
do
can
have all kinds of
think of?
things. We do have all kinds of things. One of the things we're continuously aw- focusing on, aware of, ready for is supporting projects that we start through completion. And so a couple years ago, we were able to donate 26 acres, 36 acres. Woo, forgetting it was such a big part of my life. I'm forgetting the number now. We were able to donate quite a few acres to the Missouri Headwaters State Park to basically fill in a gap.
Mhm.
And now we're really committed to making sure that that new portion of the park is integrated nicely and supported through its future. So we're ready to be involved there. And we're also really focused on that park accessibility project and the future of that, figuring out how to roll it out across parks. Also figuring out, once we do the audits, what's the next step? What's the real
Right.
project gonna look like, which is the exciting part to me. Um, a couple other things that we're working on is establishing more friends groups and being a bit of a mother hen to the existing friends groups. There's about 5 or 6 friends groups out there that are similar to us. There's nonprofit organizations that support individual state parks. So there's quite a few great ones. Makoshika has a great friends group. Bannock has a friends group. Friends of Fort Owen. There's quite a few. And we're hoping to partner with them more. Travelers Rest also has a really lovely friends group. We're hoping to partner more with the friends group and to empower new friends groups to get started to support their local state parks. So that's something on our horizon. We're also hoping to grow our organization. I'm actually the only staff person that works here. So I'm really hoping to hire some people in the next couple of years to just help expand our mission and to reach more areas of the state. We do serve the entire state, obviously, as a state park organization. One other cool specific project that I'm beginning to learn more about and hoping that the foundation can help out with more is a tribal language project that's being led by Quinn Kuka, who's the tribal liaison for the FWP. And I love this project. So the concept is to incorporate tribal language interpretation signage at some state parks that tells what different pieces of flora and fauna are at the state park in tribal languages. So if there's a certain type of tree, the name of that tree would be on a sign in a native language. I think that's such a cool project to keep language alive and to educate people about the indigenous cultures that were founded this land. So I'm just super excited for the future of that project and figuring out how the foundation can get involved. We
Yeah.
also always have projects, just they pop up all the time. We're always doing small scale park project, trail projects, lots of docks, lots of stuff like that. Lots of
Well,
trees.
and I imagine that, just like the friends groups and that, if folks have some ideas of, hey, have you thought of doing this or that? I suppose you're all ears and wanting to hear
I
from.
am all ears. I really like to have those conversations with people, even if end up not necessarily going somewhere. I'm just curious about hearing people's park stories. I love talking with people about their park pass. I get a lot of phone calls on accident, people calling me to, like, make reservations, and I always end up talking to
Mm,
people for, like, 20 minutes about,
right.
like, what they should do when they're there, and then I give them the right phone number to call. So I
Well,
love to have conversations about parks. I'm an open
so
book if anyone interested in talking to me.
When you go to that podcast description, you're going to see Megan's email there, and you're going to be able to email her. Now, just remember that this is not Montana State Park, so don't email saying, "Hey, when are they going to fix the showers at XYZ Park?" That's the other side of it. That's the actual Montana State Park. So, I'll put their link too, so you folks can do that. But this is helping the state parks grow, and this is where we'd love to see some of these ideas of one, how can I help? Those are great emails. I'm sure you love to get is someone that says, "Hey, I want to help, and how can I help?" But then
I do.
also
I do love those.
ideas of, "Hey, wouldn't it be neat if we could put this in this park or whatever?" So dream a little too, but mainly get involved with this organization. Find some ways to help them. Find some ways to get out and bring them some of the companies that they need or funds that they're trying to get, because this is for all of our state parks. I mean, they're our state parks, so let's work together with the Montana State Parks Foundation and do that, and get on their website and take a look at all the stuff that Megan does. And yeah, we need to get you some help. We don't want you wearing out on us now.
I know. I know.
How do
I have
you
a really great board.
Yeah.
There,
How
I
do
have
you
a
have
great
all
board of
this energy
volunteers.
to run all around? You got to go all around the state then, don't you?
I do. Well, it's a huge perk of the job for me. I mean, I love Montana and I love like going to new places. I'm going to Judith Landing tomorrow. I was in Helena today. So
Wow.
it's and I'm back home at my house in Gallatin Gateway right now.
You are nonstop, the Energizer Bunny there. Well, Megan,
Yeah.
anything else you want to lay on us before we go?
Yeah, I wanted to plug a couple just little quick things.
Sure.
So we are doing, like I mentioned, a current fundraiser that we're kind of just launching for the Spring Meadow Park Accessibility Project, and we're having a really good raffle. So we have a raffle going on right now. One ticket for $10, I think, and then it kind of goes up from there in packages. And there's 3 packages. So there's a camping package that has a new tent, camp stove, a lot of donations from REI, just cool camping gear. I also have a trail running package that has gift cards from Oboes, Bozeman Running Company, and Runner's Edge in Missoula that can be redeemed in person or online. It
Great.
also has registration to quite a few races at state parks and a lot of other really cool goodies. And then we also have a fly fishing package, which includes a guided trip out in Missoula, and that is sponsored by the Missoula River Lodge, I believe. They're awesome.
Mm.
And then that also has an Orvis rod and reel included. It has a Sims boots and waders included, and a
Wow.
bunch of other goodies too. It's a very solid package, and the idea behind those is giving people the gear they need to get outside. And the other idea is that it's a fundraiser for the
Sure.
Park Accessibility Project. So go ahead and buy raffle tickets. They're on sale until July 15th, and you can buy them online. We're also partnering with the Missoula Paddleheads, the baseball team.
Yeah.
And so you can go onto our website and purchase tickets to a game on August 5th, and all of the proceeds actually go to us. So if you're in Missoula or you want to go to the baseball game, go ahead and buy them through us, and the proceeds go to us, which is really cool. And also, if you buy a baseball ticket before July 15th, you are entered into the raffle for free. And the final thing I want to plug is that we're actually looking for new board members, specifically in the Billings area, central Montana area. So if anyone's listening to this podcast and they are really passionate about state parks, recreation, history, all of that, and has the time and wherewithal to kind of commit to a board position, I would love to hear from you.
Okay. So
Cool.
again, if any of those interest you, to get the raffle tickets, you go to your website and give
Okay.
us that website just for our audio only listeners, that some of
Yes.
them find some of these obscure, which is okay that you get your podcasts there, but there are some rather cool sites, but some of those don't even have the podcast description with it. So for those folks, give us the website for that to get those things.
Yep, it's just the Montana State Parks Foundation, all spelled out, .org. Montana State Park. Oh my goodness. Montana State Parks Foundation.org.
Okay. And for those of you that are watching, that's on your screen right now. And for those of you that want to check it out, in the podcast description, it's there too. So click on that, get you some raffle tickets, and let's find you a few board members too. That would be awesome. So
Cool.
we will do all that. So there you have it, folks. There is a lot to go over, and we can't wait to have you come back and give us more updates about all the things that you have going on, Megan. I want to thank you so much for your time. Megan Buecking, thank you very much for all you do for our state parks and for the Montana State Parks Foundation.
Thanks, Downrigger. It was such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll have to have you on again. And so, folks, check all those things out. Get on there. Share this podcast. If you know of somebody out there that would either benefit from the state parks and the great work that Megan does, let us know. Also, those of you that want to get involved, get involved. For those of you that are listening via audio, you can find the video portion of this podcast right there on YouTube, and there's a link to that. So I hope you'll go watch it. Until we talk again, folks, be safe out there, be good to each other, and we'll see you next time here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Montana Outdoor Podcast. It has been brought to you in part by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. And by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to rmtte.com for more information. So what did you think of today's podcast? Send your questions and comments to Downrigger at montanooutdoor.com. We should be dropping a new podcast this next Saturday. Until then, we will see you soon out in Montana's great outdoors.